Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, another former top Philippine official barred from entering Hong Kong.
I think clearly the bottom line is I was being harassed, or we were being harassed.
Prompting the Foreign Affairs Department to cancel courtesy diplomatic passports.
I saw in the DFA statement that the diplomatic passport was legitimately issued to me, which is a happy development as far as I'm concerned.
Also, a joint investigation on the Rectobank incident.
Mabuti yung dalawa na nagsasama para walang sabing na masyadong bias.
And the proposed joint oil and gas exploration with China. Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert del Rosario joins us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. The Foreign Affairs Department has canceled all courtesy diplomatic passports issued to former foreign affairs secretaries and ambassadors after the Hong Kong government barred entry of a former foreign affairs secretary last week. Vice President Leni Robredo slams the move of the DFA, calling it a knee-jerk reaction, while some lawmakers question the former secretary's use of his diplomatic passport. Also, should the Philippines proceed with a joint investigation with China in the Rectobank incident, or will a third country make the outcome of the investigation more neutral, objective, and credible? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert del Rosario. Secretary, good to have you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
After that incident, have you rested?
Well, there have been many calls from all over the world in terms of what's happening, and I think there's a significant concern that the influence of our northern neighbor will prevail here.
You're getting a lot of calls, even internationally. Anybody of significant importance, or at least important to you?
These are, well, for example, I received a call. I've not talked to him yet as I was pulling into the driveway here. It was a call from Martin Nataligawa. If you remember, he was the foreign minister of Indonesia. So I've not talked with him yet, but he's been calling. And then we get calls from as far as Zimbabwe, Pakistan, India, US. And the publication of what's happening here is worldwide now, being followed very closely.
How do you feel about this?
Well, I feel that we must show the world that we want to do what's right. And we are pursuing a track here where we're trying to convince the government that we must do what's right, and we must consider that the Filipino must be given primacy.
Are you getting that support from the government, sir?
I don't know yet. It might be too early to tell. I think in terms of what happened, I was detained for 6 hours. I was questioned, and then I was told that I would be put on a plane without explanation, and ultimately I was deported. I think what people should know about is that I was carrying a diplomatic passport, and a diplomatic passport is it must be respected because it carries the seal of the Republic of the Philippines. So to discredit the bearer is to discredit the Republic. And given that that's what happened, I believe that it becomes a legitimate issue for our public officials to see what can be done to protect our seal.
Can you say that again, sir? Discrediting the bearer is discrediting the Republic?
To discredit the bearer is to discredit the seal of the Republic, is to discredit the Republic, effectively.
In other words, to discredit the bearer, to discredit someone like you is discrediting the seal, or the Philippines, for
Because I
that
carry
matter?
the seal.
Because
yes.
you carry the seal.
Yes.
So here's the question, sir. The DFA on Saturday, I believe, issued an order that they will cancel all courtesy diplomatic passports to all its former officials and diplomats. What does this say about this move by the DFA, sir?
Well, it's not a thoughtful move because given what's happened to me, instead of fully investigating what the Philippines should be doing to respond to this disrespect, they are instead distracting the public by canceling the diplomatic passports for those who have legitimately been carrying them. There's a great deal of anxiety and anger that the cancellation of ambassadors' diplomatic passports, what does that have to do with what happened to me in Hong Kong? All right. But happily, I will say to them, we did our research and this will not happen.
They cannot cancel
They
the
cannot
diplomatic
cancel.
passports?
And I will read to you
Please go
the
ahead, sir.
Passport Act that's pertaining to this. Section 3G of the Passport Act, Republic Act 8239, defines ambassadors to include those who have served as ambassador extraordinary or plenipotentiary, referring to former SFAs and former ambassadors. SFAs serve as the country's top ambassador and not only as a cabinet secretary. Section something of the Passport Act provides that ambassadors are entitled to diplomatic passports and are imbued with diplomatic status. Therefore, under the Passport Act, former SFAs and ambassadors are entitled to diplomatic passports and are imbued with diplomatic status, okay? Because previously they're talking about port courtesies only. Now this is full diplomatic status. The DFA department order, which will cancel the country's passport of former SFAs and ambassadors, cannot prevail. A department act, which is what was used to cancel, cannot prevail over a passport act, which is a law passed by Congress.
I understand what you're saying here, Secretary, but I did a little research on this. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The extension of courtesy diplomatic passports to former foreign affairs secretaries and ambassadors, if I'm not mistaken, sir, from my understanding it was a department order in 1993, way back in 1993, extending diplomatic passports to former sex.
That's correct.
And ambassadors as a matter of courtesy. So how does this relate to a department order then, sir, in 1993, comparing it to this department order now, canceling these diplomatic passports? And then we have, in accordance to this Passport Act that you just read to us.
Well, my sense, I was not yet in the radar screen at that time. My sense is there was a law, Passport Act, and they wanted to execute this, and they came up with the rules for execution, and so that's what happened. That's how it started. It started, and the secretaries are considered as the top ambassadors, so they would be included in this Passport Act. So to your question, where are we now? Right now, the department order has canceled the diplomatic passports, which they cannot do.
Are you going to contest this?
I think that our people in the DFA, when they have this information, will act on it in the proper way.
Because of this provision in the Passport Act, which is RA 8239.
8239, that's right.
But you yourself, sir, do you plan to question this order by the DFA to, I believe it's, I'm not sure if it's a consular officer, ordering the cancellation of the courtesy diplomatic passports? Will you question it yourself, sir?
I'm questioning it now. by this, by revisiting the Passport Act, I think they will on their own act on this.
Will you put this in writing, sir?
Yeah, I
Will
will
you
put it
question
in
this
writing.
in
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if I have to put it in writing. I think we have a very good foreign secretary, so I think he will take the initiative to do this.
Let me add something to that, sir. We have a very good foreign affairs secretary. When you were in Hong Kong, you said this. To the effect that you received a suggestion, sir, from the DFA that we should look into, and I quote, the possibility of protesting the failure of Hong Kong authorities. To be very clear on this, let's listen to what you said when you were in Hong Kong.
I've also received a suggestion from the DFA that we should look into the possibility of protesting the failure of the Hong Kong authorities to respect the diplomatic passport, and this would be a violation of the Vienna Convention.
So here's where I'm confused, sir. I bring that up, and I need to correct myself. That was, you said that upon your arrival. So if they were saying to look into this, and then they canceled, they issued an order to cancel the courtesy diplomatic passports, isn't that the exact opposite of what you had said when you arrived, sir?
Yeah, I think the big difference, the game changer is we know now that what they're doing is not consistent with the law, and we're pointing it out to them. We did not realize that there was this coverage in the Passport Act. So this is a game changer. They cannot do what they're doing. And I question why this was coming at this time out of nowhere without any legitimate reason as to why they're doing this. But of course, somewhere along the way, we hope to get an answer. But right now, I think what they've done is not lawful, and they should realign themselves in conformity with the Passport Act.
Would you call it illegal, the order, sir?
I would say it's unlawful.
Not illegal. So you came back thinking that the DFA was saying, let's look into this, what happened to you in Hong Kong, and then one day later, sir, you find out from the news that they're going to cancel the passports. Let me just, for those of us who do not have diplomatic passports, Secretary, this is a blue passport. It's also my first time to actually see it, just for our benefit. So when you have a diplomatic passport, sir, do you also have an ordinary passport as well?
I have an ordinary passport.
So like a brown one, like
Green.
green. Okay,
Like
is
the
it
color
green?
of your walls.
Like this one, which they don't see that. So you have both. So in fact, sir, this is what you told us that you used when you told the DFA that you were actually going to Hong Kong for a business meeting. You wanted to use this passport. Why?
Because it gets me through the immigration lines. And there's a port courtesy now and all the time. When I arrive, the local consulate provides me an escorting facility so I can go through the immigration faster.
Is that why there were two members of the consul that actually...
Well, let me backtrack. I think you said earlier that the passport in itself, as a diplomatic passport, is not good all the time. Every time you travel, you have to have it revalidated.
I see.
Yeah, so what does revalidation mean? You have to submit your passport, and you have to answer questions as to where you're going, what business you're going to conduct there, how long and when are you coming back. So once they approve that, then you consider that you can use your diplomatic passport. Without that, you cannot.
Who does this, the DFA?
The DFA.
Did you get the approval, sir?
Yes, I submitted for revalidation. As usual, I got the approval.
I see.
Because they know that I go to Hong Kong regularly for the board meetings there. But what happened here is, given the problems that our former ombudswoman had encountered, I decided to go one step further. We called the Office of the Secretary of Foreign Affairs and stated our intention. And then the office then was very accommodating. They contacted the Hong Kong consulate, and the Hong Kong consulate in turn wrote the chief of the immigration in Hong Kong to say that I was coming, and if there were any objections. There was no response. So because I had a board meeting on that day, and I had a general shareholders meeting, I pursued my trip there, thinking that because there was no response, it would be okay.
I know we need to go on a break, but I might forget this, sir. You know, I spoke to presidential spokesperson Sal Panelo, and I said exactly what you said, that you had asked even the DFA and told them that you were going there. And then what he told me, I remember, was, so why didn't you check again if you were going to be allowed or not? Could you answer that before we go on a break,
Why
sir?
did I check again? Why
Yeah.
do I have to check again? Oh, I'm a little irked at the manner in which our protector, our government, is handling this. You have a Secretary Panelo who, the first thing he says is maybe it was misused. Okay, I think we should be protecting the sovereignty of our country. That should be foremost. It's not. How can I misuse that passport?
We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert del Rosario. Sir, I know that you said that this is unlawful, and you're questioning it right now here on CNN Philippines, and you may write the DFA regarding this. But I take it, sir, that you will not surrender that passport.
I think if they ask me to surrender, I will. It's no good anyway, because I have to revalidate it, and if they are firm in their position, they will refuse to revalidate. So I will do as they ask. But I just want to point out that they're running afoul of the Passport Act by proceeding with canceling these diplomatic passports.
Secretary, has anyone from the DFA contacted you regarding this?
In the DFA, no.
Not yet.
No.
All right. One other thing, though, sir, I hope you can help us understand, is that in the Passport Act, you mentioned that a while ago, that I guess the word is it is imbued with diplomatic status. Does that necessarily mean, sir, that if you hold a diplomatic passport, because my understanding is that any country can allow or refuse entry.
Yes.
How does that, I guess, how do you connect with having a diplomatic passport to a country actually wanting to refuse entry to anybody, for that matter, who carries a diplomatic passport?
I don't know. Usually it's if they, for example, were to deny entry, and that was their intention. My view is they should have told me this right away, because throughout the 6-hour detention, I kept asking, why am I being detained? What is the reason for this? And I asked this question all the way up to the deportation. And the only reason they could give me is immigration reason. That's the immigration reason. I think as bearer of a diplomatic passport, they should have at least have explained to me, so that I could have a viable explanation and I could respond. But I was not given that privilege.
You wanted at least that, sir.
Yes, yes.
An explanation
At the very
of
least,
some sort.
Yes.
Do you plan to file, if at all you can, or you want to, sir, file a protest regarding what happened to you, sir?
I think that's the role of the Philippine government, rather than then doubt the actions that I have taken in terms of traveling to Hong Kong for business, the charges of misuse. I think the focus is awry. It should be centered on protecting the seal of the Republic.
Do you think they'll do that, sir, after canceling these courtesy diplomatic passports?
I think it should be one of the options to do to the responsible state exactly what they did to us. Wait for an occasion to deny a carrier of a diplomatic passport from that place.
Yeah.
And I think they should sit down with the embassy or the consul general and say that to be able to defend and uphold our sovereignty, we may have to do this as well to you.
I'm just going to ask you a very direct question, sir. Do you feel that you are defended by the government as of now, sir?
As of now, I think the criticism was I was not entitled, that I was misusing. I think this has been clarified by the Foreign Secretary, and I think he's done a fine job. So I think the next move should be the government. What will they do with this disrespect for the Republic?
Hong Kong legislator Ted Hui Chi Fong called your deportation unreasonable and barbaric. He called it the same with Ombudswoman Justice Conchita Carpio Morales. He says, I will formally question the Hong Kong government in the Legislative Council about the two Philippine cases to put more pressure from the public on Beijing. Just two things before we go on a break, sir. Number one, has he reached out to you, this Hong Kong legislator?
No, but I've been following his pronouncements, so I think it's pretty good.
So that's a reaction to him questioning this before the Legislative
and
Council.
I thank him for it.
Did you say you thank him for that?
Yes.
We'll be taking
No, I'm saying I want to thank him on your show for that.
He wants to say thank you to Hong Kong legislator Ted Hui Chi Fong. I hope I pronounced it right. We'll be taking another short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert del Rosario. Sir, will you still go back to Hong Kong?
I have a business there. I will endeavor to do that, but I guess we'll have to continue asking if I will be accepted before I go.
So unlike Ombudswoman, she's not going back. She said she would not contribute a single cent to the economy.
Yeah, I think also it raises a question, and I've read about this recently already. It questions the possible perception of businessmen who are placing capital in Hong Kong, whether it's safe to do that under the circumstances.
I think I read that, sir, also in the Philippine Star. It questions capital if you were a businessman or to infuse capital in China. I'm just going to add something to that since you mentioned it. It is this man, he's a journalist, Aaron Conley, from the International Institute of Strategic Studies in Singapore. Again, this is coming from the Philippine Star that was quoted in the Los Angeles Times. Here's what he said, sir. If you are one of those Southeast Asian officials watching what is happening to Del Rosario today, it's likely to have a chilling effect on the extent to which you are willing to criticize Beijing. Does that somehow make you take a step back in any of the statements that you make about China or its president, sir?
Well, I've come out with an observation that you cannot trust China. And the measure of distrust is evidenced by many occurrences, many circumstances. For example, Mr. Xi Jinping, in a conversation with the President of the United States, said that they are no longer militarizing. And as he was talking, they were militarizing on the ground. So, and then there was another leader who was told by Mr. Xi Jinping that there would be no island building, artificial island building. And as he was saying that, on the ground they were island building. So this mistrust, I think, has basis.
The Rectobank issue, 22 fishermen, sir, left at sea. There will be, the president agreed to a joint investigation. Number one, sir, we're running out of time. Do you agree with a joint investigation?
Very quickly, I do not agree. Why? I think they should not be insulting the intelligence of the Filipino people. Why are they doing this? Because how can you expect the offender to investigate his offense? And secondly, if you put the Philippines and China together, one party is for seeking the truth, the other party is for suppressing it. I don't think China should have a role in terms of our investigation. It happened in our exclusive economic zone. It should be us who should be coming up with a full investigation.
Even if there's a third party, a possible third party involved, Secretary?
Well, you know, even if there's a third party, because this joint probe, by the way, I understand is the idea of China. So right away, there's a mistrust for where this is coming from the source.
Well, they might contest that, sir, because DOJ Secretary Minardo Guevara had already said that he actually brought this idea up. Presidential spokesperson Sal Penelo, I saw him also a couple of nights ago, sir, and he did also mention this.
But I read this actually in a newspaper.
Way before they said it?
Yeah, so maybe they're acting as cover now.
I see. Just a complaint on the ICC, any communication to the ICC, any update on that, sir?
We have received a communication that the allegations are being analyzed, and there will be an expeditious response to this once they determine that they have jurisdiction over it.
Yung issue, sir, sa Rectobank, can that be submitted as additional evidence to the ICC, or could the ICC just look into that and, since it's a controversial topic, include it in this communication on crimes against humanity?
Yeah, I think as we wait for it, they're watching us to see what's happening. And so I'm sure they're picking all of this up. We don't have to tell them that.
Okay, so you don't need to submit that. Sir, just one last question. You've served the DFA for 5 years. You know, President Aquino very proud of the kind of dedication and commitment that you gave to the country. This happening to you now, I know you said you were irked, but how do you feel about the department with this kind of action now, after having served it for 5 years?
Actually, I've been with the DFA all in all 10 years. I was ambassador to the U.S. for 5 years. But I have great confidence in the DFA, and I think all of this will be sorted out.
Hindi ho masama loob niyo?
No, because you know, it might have been overlooked.
Okay, maraming salamat kay former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert del Rosario. Sir, take care of yourself. Thank you, sir. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.